Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Canon Thinks podcast. Today, I have two special guests on: my friend David, who I do the movie reviews with, and then also my new friend Abby, who I met on a podcast guest exchange subreddit. And we decided to spend today's episode to talk about talk shows and how they are being corrupted by political agendas, and also the fact is that I just don't think they're very funny anymore. I think the talk shows were much better years and years ago when they weren't focusing so much on specifically Donald Trump, but also just the general political spectrum right now. So welcome on to the show, you guys. And Abby, just to start off the show, what are talk shows like in different countries? Because I know that you grew up in India, in French India, and then you also have lived in 5 other countries, and now you currently reside in the Netherlands.
America is the only country in which I've seen successful talk shows. There are talk shows in all the, but not quite as successful as the American ones. People all over the world watch the local news or the local talk shows and then follow the American talk shows. So everyone in the world receives information or receives news through talk shows. So so I don't have a very strong experience in watching too much of European talk shows because European shows tend to be very fucking boring. Even Europeans admit it.
Yeah, I believe that Spain has a lot of it's this trend with like late night shows and talk shows is growing in Spain, but it is mimicking America. It's like using the same type of patterns or even copying the successful late night shows from America. Some of them are growing more than others, but definitely all follow the traditional late night show pattern established by America. They can be more funny or less funny, more informative or less informative, but overall you can tell that they are basing off their podcast, or I mean their talk show off the American trend.
And you said that a lot of people get their news directly from talk shows, but I'm not sure how true that is necessarily. I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of people who exclusively watch talk shows to get their information, but we still have a lot of big news networks that a lot of people still subscribe to as well. I mean, like
That's true.
CNN and stuff.
But it is true. It is true. People do get news from CNN, and we do have our fair share of fake news organizations. But the thing about talk show is that like it tends to be interesting. It tends to be funny at certain
Right.
points. It's the issue I want to speak about is that it's just like making the kid eat vegetables, like showing the airplane. The airplane
Yeah.
is a comedy, and the vegetable is the extreme left opinion. And that gets force-fed into you again and again and again. And I'm seeing a pattern in which people lose credibility in these shows. So you're just doing it for the people who you already have won.
I think in a way we could say that maybe talk shows make the news more accessible to the public, especially certain topics, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly
Mhm.
easier to listen to than regular news.
They try to use comedy for that purpose, right? To make through comedy, they try to make those news more accessible. Because yeah, CNN and Fox News, they can be kind of boring, right? This is like straight up news. It's very raw. Still opinionated though. CNN is from one side, Fox is more from the other side, right? And then with talk shows, I do feel like what he was saying. It is true that I see that talk shows and late night shows are more usually left wing. I can come up with one that I feel like it's right wing, you know?
I mean,
Which is
Fox and
something
Friends. That's about it.
Is that a talk? I don't know. I've never seen
No,
it.
it's like an early morning show. I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but you're right, because they all tend to lean left.
But even in Spain, even the late night shows in Spain that mimic American late night shows and talk shows, they're also very, very much left wing. I cannot think of one that is a late night show in Spain or here really that is kind of like right wing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, my issue is that like it shouldn't be left wing or right wing. If you are running a comedy show, it should
Correct.
be about comedy. If you run a news show, then run a news show. All right, you're running a comedy news show, so what you're saying is that you're going to be making fun of the current world events, the current
Yeah,
news.
to your point, because if you
Why
go
d-
on like YouTube or I don't know, because like most late night shows are kind of transitioning to YouTube, but just in general, most late night talk shows or just talk shows in general, most of their content has directly to do with making fun of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, true. And another thing I really want to say to I mean, I'm not certain how many talk show hosts are going to be listening to this podcast, but if anyone is listening, I will say this too. The the very fact that like you won't stop sucking Donald Trump's dick is the reason why he's so successful. He lives on
Yeah,
those. Do you understand that? Like he understands that there's nothing called as a positive publicity or negative publicity. Publicity is
that's true.
publicity, and he rides on
And
that.
the
And you got
irony is
go
that
ahead.
like he used that in his campaign, right? This is from early on before he was elected, that he was aware of this publicity thing. And then I remember a lot of like talk shows and late night shows being like, oh, we shouldn't talk so much about Donald Trump because we're giving him publicity and that's what he wants. And they knew it. And then they still fell for it. And to this day, they still do, they still serve that purpose of just talking and talking and talking about Donald Trump. They can get away, like they cannot stop it,
Yeah,
and it is really hard to do because, well, he's the president now. But
There's
yeah,
that old
it's
saying of any publicity is good publicity.
yeah, really serving his purpose.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is it seems like, I mean, obviously he's doing a lot of crazy things and things that you shouldn't do when you're a president, but it almost seems like he just does it so much that it's like he's doing it just to feed these kind of content creators.
yeah, true, man. Like people say that like Donald Trump caused millions of job losses and stuff, but look at the number of jobs he has created for comedy writers.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
he has given us a shit ton of
Yeah,
content, man.
especially
That's
these
true.
like, because I mean, they don't even have to come up with good content. All they have to do is just rant about Donald Trump for like 30 minutes and then they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what really surprised me is that, like, uh, like, I'm from India, like, we are used to this much of craziness. And we look up at America as like this magical place where unicorns exist and you eat candies for breakfast. This is the idea we have back home in Africa, in India, wherever I went. Many I met were always interested towards America, not because of the American politics or anything, but because of the idea that you don't need to be someone to achieve in America. That's the
Yeah,
American
I think
dream.
David could speak to that a little bit because I know you used to always idolize America.
Yeah. I mean, I still do to an extent. I really think America has a lot of positives, and one of those positives I really think is like the freedom of speech and press, right?
Speech.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's really amazing, man. Like you have no idea how much freedom of speech gets
oh yeah,
censored.
even in Spain nowadays,
Yeah.
whoever is in government, you can tell that they also control the TVs. And then if you watch TV, you can see how like they're being very keen to the government. So it's very obvious how manipulative it can be. But in the US, I feel like yes, there's like Trump will blame the media and say that they're all fake news and put them all in like the same bag. But there's also Fox, right? There's also you still have like very powerful media that are right wing. But it is true that going back to talk shows, I really think that ironically they are all very much left wing. Now that I think of it, and it does get old for me. It gets old when all they do is talk about Trump. Like,
Yeah.
yes, he's the president, but
But the one talk show which I honestly love. I mean, I do the talk show hosts. I like two talk show hosts, but like Jimmy Kimmel and John Oliver. The one show which I believe this is my humble opinion has been true from the beginning to the last is John Oliver's The Tonight Show. Like he although he is also left, I don't see him like leaning extremely. Like I see him more as a moderate rather than as an extreme guy.
I really think he's very much left wing, but the way his show is structured, I feel like the writers really try hard to throw at you facts with comedy, and to try those facts to try to make it so that it's as unbiased as possible. They try to stay away from being super biased towards the left, which
They
I appreciate.
also give you a lot of sourcing, like sources on everything that they're talking about, and they go into subjects that aren't specifically, because I mean he does talk about Trump a lot in his show, but usually he'll have one main focus on, like, okay, today we're going to talk about gerrymandering, or today we're going to talk about this other thing, but it's not like, oh, we're just going to rant about what Donald Trump did this week, because that's exactly what shows like Trevor Noah does and some of these other late night shows.
Yeah.
No, and look, for instance, okay, let me talk about the other shows, all right? In my opinion, the Colbert Report. Stephen Colbert was funny when Stewart and Jon Stewart and Colbert were working together. And then Stewart went to being the most funniest one. After Jon Stewart left the show, now Colbert is doing well again. So then it becomes more of a, I'm doing better than you. Now I'm good. So it's I do not know. Like Colbert Report is somewhere in the middle. Like I don't care enough to talk about.
I would say,
about it.
I mean, I used to watch it a little bit, and I've kind of watched a little bit more just preparing for this. I think Colbert Report, his monologues are kind of terrible, and he shouldn't do them. But his interviews are actually really, really good. And he had this interview a while ago where he brought Ted Cruz on, and Ted Cruz said something kind of dumb, and the audience started booing him. But then Stephen Colbert like shushed the audience. He was like, "Hey guys, this is my guest. Please be respectful." And that was really cool. Like, he does have really good discussions with guests, because there are other talk show hosts when they bring us where they don't really add anything to the discussion, specifically Jimmy Fallon. He'll just kind of laugh at everything they say.
Yeah, he laughs at anything and everything. Does he not understand that, like, the whole world has a...
Oh,
I think you kind of cut out right there.
Yeah, you cut out a little.
What were you saying?
All right. Like, I wanted to say that, like, Jimmy Fallon needs to understand that the whole world, at least 90% of the people I've met, consider him as a lunatic. Like, it's no use watching his show, man. Like, he would laugh at anything and everything, and he would come up with speeches like that is extremely reversed to a point that it is forced.
He doesn't sound genuine whatsoever. I really think that Jimmy Fallon is one of the ones that sounds the least genuine. Every interviewer that he brings, it sounds, I mean, it is marketing, right? These talk shows, when they bring guests, a lot of the time is to market the movie. But with Jimmy Fallon,
or a book, or whatever they're doing,
whatever their work is, right? But with Jimmy Fallon, it really seems like he sucks their dick a little, whoever comes,
Well, I actually think if you look back at his old SNL stuff, he's kind of like a dumb blonde. Like, he's kind of dumb. He'll just laugh at everything. Even back in his old days, he would laugh at everything. He just kind of finds everything funny. I think his laugh is genuine. I think he's just kind of dumb.
Oh.
And it hurts his show.
Yeah, I think it's because other ones, I mean, Colbert brings guests and they talk about their work. But he's not just, I mean, he doesn't just say positive things all the time, like, oh, I love you so much, he doesn't just like sugarcoat the guests so much, but they talk about the work, and it seems more serious, definitely, than Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon seems like, I don't know, he never seemed as genuine to me, and I like some of the interviews just because of I like the guests that he brings, not so much
he always
because
has
I like
the best
him.
guests on, but he doesn't use them very well.
For sure.
So what do you like about Jimmy Kimmel?
Like, he, something about him. He's a honest, down-to-earth person. Like, there's a genuine jokes. There's heart. Like, I do not know how to explain heart. Something you feel.
I like that he has. I mean, he's really involved with other things outside of his show. Like, he hosted the Academy Awards once, or didn't he? Or like he hosts like other things.
I think so.
So when he hosted the Academy Awards, that gave his show an extra layer of things to talk about. And then that's when he had like that beef with Matt Damon, and I really think his show it's a little bit more than just a talk show or interviews, but because he also gets involved outside of his show with things like hosting award shows, I think that brings a lot more content to his his show.
I like Jimmy Kimmel because he doesn't focus on politics at all. He'll bring on guests and they never talk about politics. It's always talking about other things. I also like him because he'll bring on sports stars like basketball players, which I like. And he kind of just goes on there to have a fun time. Like when guests go on there, you know that it's going to be at least a pretty good show, and it's not going to be about politics.
Yeah.
And they'll just kind of goof off. The one thing that I don't like about his show is the Halloween candy skit where they'll like have parents take away candy from their kids and like traumatize them for views. I am not a fan of that. But everything else is good.
That. I remember this, yeah.
Okay, so what do you guys think about Conan? Are you guys a fan of him at all?
Conan, like he's funny, man. Like he's honestly funny. Like he stays true to his character. He goes out of his way to make people laugh. He honestly is funny.
About Conan, I don't have that strong of an opinion. I honestly haven't followed him as much. I've seen interviews with him, and yeah, they tend to be funny, and they, I do think they're more genuine, definitely, than Fallon's. By far,
he does a really good job. You can tell that he really cares about being funny, and a lot of his skits and jokes are making fun of himself, like he is the prop rather than making fun of other people.
I think he always joke about how he's kind of like
exactly
Irish or something like that. Like he always kind of jokes about things like that. Yeah,
and like he has this one skit where he is like a dumb Starbucks worker, and it's pretty funny, and it's just nice seeing that. I guess a famous person is willing to just make fun of themselves rather than just roasting another person like Donald Trump is to most people.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay. I think we've pretty much covered most shows. Oh, okay. So we have two more. Do you guys watch any Seth Meyers show?
I rarely watch him if Larry David is present there.
Yeah, Larry David's the best. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really watch it much, but he's in like the top 10 for views of late night shows.
Yo, man, that's just like 10 shows, man. So if you're in top 10, like
that's true.
That's all there is.
Well, but then you also have like the bottom feeder, who is my least favorite person, which is James Corden.
Yeah, with.
Yeah, I've heard that like that guy's such a big tool.
Going back to Seth.
Is it a good word to use it in your podcast?
Before we move on?
Okay.
I think that Seth brings in movie stars that are not as big, and I like that. I don't watch him as often, but when he brings on like a star that is like, it's usually movie stars that are beginning or they don't have as big of a trajectory. Like, I don't know. I'm sure he'll also bring like Tom Cruise and things like that, but I feel like he brings sometimes the smaller stars, and I like that.
Since you're a big buff, you like when they interview, I guess, actors who wouldn't get on the big late night shows.
Yeah, I remember him bringing.
Who did he bring on?
What was it? I remember thinking that like a while ago that he brings them early on in their careers, and then they get bigger, and then they go to Jimmy Fallon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think that he's the one that brings them like earlier on when they're still like not super big. That's like the impression that I get with from his show. And I kind of like that, but it is true that I don't know. To me, he doesn't seem to be as big, for sure. But,
well, and I mean, there's just not enough time on the air for you can't have, because I think his show is like really late, like 9 or 10. So
yeah,
usually those later spots aren't going to get you as much viewers either.
That's true. But yeah, he also does talk about Trump, and a little bit of politics, but I don't think he is that bad at that. I don't know. But yeah, and you wanted to move into your favorite.
Yeah, my favorite. Well, I was just gonna say about James Corden that the one thing I think that Carpool Karaoke was definitely a good kind of springboard for him and become more and more popular. But at this point, when you watch it, he's kind of unbearable to me, at least. Like he's just not very funny in those Carpool Karaokes anymore. His show is it's unique, and it's got different things that it's kind of got like a little bit of an extra flair to it that's interesting. But I swear, this dude, he'll sell anything. He'll sell he'll sell his dignity for a paycheck because he does every commercial you ever saw. He'll do any crappy movie like the Emoji Movie. I mean, he doesn't care about anything besides money.
Yeah.
But I've heard that like he's a tool.
Yeah.
I mean, if tool is not a right word, then dick.
Yeah, I think
kind of-
that he definitely got
But
he definitely has that hit of the carpool karaoke things, and he really milks that, and it's good. But then outside of that, yeah, his show is kind of unbearable. Even though he brings in really famous people too. Sometimes, like at the same time, he has like multiple
Like-
guests from different backgrounds.
you man, like all his guests are like hip hop stars, man. They're
Yeah.
international stars. They, I mean, on a good day, if James Corden alone did any shows, he's going to put up on a
Yeah.
good day, he's going to put up 5 million or 10 million views. Those guys make views
Yeah.
in hundreds. I mean,
And
It's
this
kind of
is so-
amazing the fact
it's-
that late night talk shows still even exist, because the amount of viewers that they're getting for the amount of money that they would have to pay to like get all this running is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and with him, I think that like I don't know if you guys remember, there's something really interesting happened in his show that he missed. I don't know if he got sick or something happened to him, but for a few episodes he was not there, and they had like substitutes as the host.
yeah, he had his wife
Yeah, it
pregnant
was
or his
something
girlfriend
like
pregnant,
that. So he couldn't be in the show, and one of his substitutes as the host was this. Yeah,
He
it's
was a
this
famous guy,
singer
man.
from, he used to be in One Direction, Harry Styles.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember
you
that.
know
I watched
what?
that whole thing.
Yeah, when he was the host, that episode was more successful.
Yeah, and
I
I mean,
think so.
I think it's just part of it is because so many people are fanatics of Harry Styles in One Direction.
Probably,
that was
but-
kind of bound to happen. But he also did a really good job. Like he was really
Yeah.
funny in that episode.
Yeah, I think it was
did a
like
show.
really. I think it was genuinely really funny, and I think it was like better than. than I think he did a better job as a host.
Although I would say it's probably easier to just do one show than it is to do like
I bet
a show every week or every day. But still, I mean, to pull off a good show after having never done a late night show before, very impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about why talk shows aren't funny anymore. Because I think that talk shows used to be really, really good, and a lot more people were behind them.
Yeah, true.
But what happened? Why do talk shows, they're just not very funny anymore?
Because right now, they are not looking to make any more new audiences. They're just writing jokes for the ones they already have. Like it used to be about comedy, it used to be about making people laugh. Now it's just making sure you say the right thing for the right people,
Yeah,
That's right.
definitely. Well, especially because a lot of these talk shows, they have kind of the bubble of fans that follow them, and they're expecting certain
Yeah.
like left-leaning content or whatever that they're
Yeah.
expecting. And when you bring on guests who aren't with like the program, I guess, aren't with like your normal thing, people don't really like that. Like people, it's weird. It's just like this big bubble that they tend to have around themselves.
It really feels like they're just trying to please their established audience, other than get outside of
Yeah.
of their comfort zone or the side of the
Which
box.
you would think that they would try harder to expand their viewership and everything. Because I mean, if you're only getting like 1.5 million viewers for an airing, you could definitely do better than that.
Like if Joe Rogan's podcast is considered as a talk show, I would call that as the best interviews ever, man. Like, people are so relaxed. Like, and even when fucked up people show up, like Alex Jones or Elon Musk, like he makes sure that they smoke weed and say some stupid shit. So, those are like epic, man. Do you watch Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I love Joe Rogan. And I really love the fact that he'll bring on a really left-wing guest, and then the next week, a really right-wing
And
guest.
also right wing, yeah, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
I think that's very important. That really shows that you're not just conforming with one ideology. You're just trying to bring. I think that's the
Yeah.
best thing you can do, at least in this time.
Yeah.
He's brought on Alex Jones like 4 or 5 times already, I think. and they're always like 3.5 hour long episodes.
shit.
They're hilarious.
Wow.
They're some of my favorite Joe
Wow.
Rogans. Even though I obviously am not a fan of Alex Jones at all, he's funny. I will admit that. I do think it's really important, and I wish that more late night shows would do this, or just talk shows in general, is trying to talk about ideas rather than talking about like events. So that's kind of what Joe Rogan does, is he'll bring on like a really, I don't know, socially conscious left-wing guest, and then they'll talk about how they believe in all like these feminist causes or whatever, and Joe Rogan he'll kind of just get them going on it, and he won't say whether he agrees or disagrees, but it allows the audience to hear new ideas and hear new perspectives, and that's definitely missing from a lot of these talk shows.
Oh yeah.
So we were talking a little earlier just about how talk shows lead political thought. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were meaning with that?
The impact they have, or how they influence political thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for by giving too much importance to one guy, you're just making him more popular, and like it comes to a point like you are going after the wrong things. Like for instance, let me take this pussy grabbing speech of Donald Trump. It is honestly a really cringy thing to say, but honestly, think of all your guy friends and then answer. Don't you know at least one guy who would say that?
I do.
That's exactly why Donald Trump wins. You always go after the wrong things. You call yourself a comedy show. Why don't you just do comedy? Like, if you doing a comedy news show on the national politics of America, at least do a wide show. It's not just Donald Trump, like there's a whole gang behind him. Since you give so much importance to Donald Trump, you completely ignore about Nancy Pelosi or what's the guy who looks like a turtle? What's his name?
Looks like a turtle. I don't know.
Yeah, like he's a president of the Congress or something like that.
I don't know. Do you know who he means, Ken?
Like,
Yeah, Mitch McConnell. He's just he's
Oh, Mitch
such a dude.
McConnell.
oh yeah, Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a turtle without a shell.
Like, like those are the guys who make the actual law happen. Like presidents can pass bills, but those are the guys who can make a bill to a law. Since these talk shows concentrate so much on Donald J. Trump, they miss the actual targets.
That's right.
Yeah, because I mean, he does do a lot of executive orders and things, but it's not like he's the one that's necessarily coming up with a lot of this. He's got a big team behind him.
Yeah,
and
I
you know
do
how much it
think-
would hurt his ego if instead of talking about Trump, you just ignored him.
Oh, if we didn't pay attention to his tweets.
Yeah, exactly. You
Mhm.
need to
Like, we
treat
just gave him
Donald Trump
no
like Eric
credence.
Cartman, man. Like,
Yeah. And I do think that that's something probably the Republican Party is using now. Like the fact that I think that it is in their best interest to keep Donald Trump there, yes, as a shield, right? Like that everyone's gonna go after Trump and forget about everything else, right? So I think it's like it's a good figure to have as just to draw the attention of the media and the public, and then they can do whatever they want in the shadows, kind of thing.
that's exactly what is happening, man. Like, he's just a big
Yep.
smoke screen, and he loves being the smoke screen. He loves being the talk of every goddamn thing
That's
on
right,
America.
because he's a celebrity after all. So of course he loves the attention. Of course he loves to be the smokescreen. Yeah. So it works perfectly both ways.
So you need to treat Donald Trump like in that one episode in South Park, everyone would treat Cartman like pretend that he doesn't exist anymore, so that Cartman he would actually change his ways. Like that's what you should do. Like completely ignore him. Like.
And there's also a lot of international politics that they could talk about, but they just never do.
Yeah, true.
Because I mean, there's a lot of shit going on in Brazil right now that you could definitely make fun of things that are going on across the world. But nope, all they care about is like what's going on in DC. But the truth is, there are so many other local events and politics that you could even go about just in America. And like we have problems that, I mean, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water, and it's been like 4 years, and nobody talks about that anymore.
That's right.
True. Like for instance, let's if you want to talk about problems, if you take Europe, in Spain, in Catalonia, there is a freedom movement